Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Interval Conversations. I'm glad to be joined today by someone I've known pretty much since I was born, really. Professional actress Nikki Hellens. Nikki,
Hello.
how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Nathan. How are you?
I'm very good. Now, you'll probably recognise Nikki from quite a few soap operas and maybe theatres if you've seen shows in Halifax and Bradford. Nikki, you've been on Coronation Street, Emmerdale, you were in a short film called Neighbour,
Yeah,
and I've also done a few shows with you in the past.
you have.
So,
You've done a number of shows with me.
yeah, you were the Miss Lovett in Sweeney
Yes.
when I was running about the set.
When was that now? Was that 2014, was it?
I want to say 13.
13, yeah, 13 I think it was. I think you're right. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Sweeney's one of the shows I bring up when someone says, "Oh, do you have any show week horrors?" I bring up the opening night.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Longest
right.
night of my life.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Good show. So,
It was a
Nikki,
good show.
how did you get your start in acting?
Right, well, I was 13. I grew up in Hebden Bridge, so there was the local amateur company down there that always used to put on musical shows at the cinema, if anybody knows Hebden Bridge. And my mum took me to see Half a Sixpence.
Oh, yeah.
That you've recently done, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she took me to see Half a Sixpence, and I came out of the theatre and I said to my mum, I said, that is what I want to do. So then she took me down to the next production that they were doing, because they always used to do, Hebden Bridge Light Opera always used to do a pantomime in the February, and then they do the adult show, the adult musical. I think it used to be around September to October time, something like that. So I'd been to see Half a Sixpence. So she took me down to the rehearsals. They were doing Aladdin, the panto Aladdin, the following February. And we all know, anybody from amateur societies in Halifax all know Michael Peel.
Oh,
Michael Peel was directing, and he said, yeah, come on, let's join and be in the chorus. And then he roped my mum in as well. He said, well, you're going to be bringing her down anyway, you might as well be in it, because my mum had never done anything either before. So that's how I started in the chorus in Aladdin, the pantomime. And I never did drama at school. I always did, everything that I did was always out of school.
Yeah. So, moving on, you eventually got into TV as well. So, how did you get started with that?
Initially, prior to getting any roles, I was really lucky because I used to work in the local news agency in Elland, and Richard Thorpe used to come in there, who played Alan Turner in Emmerdale. And this is when I was training at Bredon Hall, and I was in my final year, and I asked Richard, I said, how do I get in touch with anybody in the casting department at ITV? He said, give me a CV and I'll make sure the right person gets it. So anyway, did that, gave it to him the next Saturday when he came into the news agents. Didn't think anything about it, left it, and it were in the days when there were no mobile phones back in the day. Yeah. And I'd graduated, and then I was doing a musical up at Edinburgh for the Fringe Festival.
Oh, yeah.
And Jez, who was my husband at the time, he contacted me at this house phone that we were staying at, saying, look, you've received a letter from Juliet, I can't remember what her surname was, but she was casting director at Emmerdale. She wants you to contact her. So then I had to go out to the payphone outside where we was lodging in Edinburgh to phone Juliet. And she said, look, Nikki, she said, you've no TV experience. I know you've just finished studying, but you've no TV experience. And I'm not going to look at bringing you in to audition you for anything at this present moment in time until you get some experience. So she said, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to come in and do some extra work. So I did, and I ended up being an extra on Emmerdale, Touch of Frost, Heartbeat, which was great to sort of get used to working within that studio environment. And then I got an agent, and my first role was actually with Emmerdale back in 1999, when I played Gillian Winters, who was a personnel manager who was brought in to interview Scott Windsor for a job, and then I was brought back 6 months later to sack him. So that was my first actual speaking role. But obviously there were a few stages that I went through, a few steps that I needed to take before I actually landed a speaking role.
Yeah. So, as you do have that theatre background as well, getting into TV acting, what was the main difference in the process to like preparing for the role and actually being on
set? What in comparison to theatre?
Yeah.
I think the preparation for a role is very similar, but the skills and the techniques and everything are very different to performing on stage to how you perform on screen. And I think that's something that skill and that technique I've gained over the experience of doing various different roles over the years, because when I trained, there were no screen acting on the course that I went on whatsoever. It was all theatre, which is very much what it's like now in drama schools. A lot of it is theatre training actors for performance within the theatre. But now anybody who's studying acting now is so lucky, because there's so many places, independent companies that are doing screen acting training. There's so much out there for people these days that wasn't when I was initially starting out. But yeah, a lot of it you gain just by doing.
Yeah, fair enough. So do you have a personal highlight from over the years, like a show you've been on, a role you've played?
I think one of my favourite roles that I did in Emmerdale was when I played a character called Caroline Goodwin, and she was Edna Birch's care assistant. I think that was one of my favourite roles in Emmerdale. I enjoyed being the solicitor for Peter Barlow as well in Coronation Street. Yeah. I think theatre-wise, most recently, I did a showcase for Right Hand Theatre Company. They brought a new musical out called No Horizon the Musical, and we did a showcase for that. When was it? I think it'd be about 18 months ago. And they were showcasing that to obtain funding, etc., to enable the production company to actually take it out on tour. And that was great, because I hadn't done anything musical theatre wise since Sweeney Todd, and I've never really done anything musical theatre wise professionally. A lot of that is to do with the fact that when obviously musical theatre, the love of musical theatre is what brought me into acting, and what I did for many, many years, but I was never really in a position to go and do it professionally, because it would have taken me away from home, and I couldn't do that because I'd got young children, as you know. You grew up with my daughter, so so that was one of the reasons why I mainly stuck to doing it with local companies, etc. But yeah, that was a good experience to do something professionally within musical theatre.
Yeah. So I think one of the highlights from over the years of seeing you in shows and working with you was when you did two with Neil Hurst.
Yeah.
One of my favourite plays. You actually did it in the Victoria Theatre.
We did, yeah, we did.
In the actual bar.
Yeah.
And it was just brilliant.
You know, that was a really good experience, because it was so immersive, because the audience were part of it, weren't they? You know, because it was the way it was set was we were acting in and amongst them as if they was people within the pub. So that was a great experience. It's not a hard script. It's just because there's only two of you in it playing so many roles, it's a huge challenge. But it's a fab play.
And obviously, working with Neil Hurst, he must have kept you on your toes every night.
He certainly did. obviously during rehearsals, I think we laughed more than we actually got through any scene, because you know what he's like for his jokes, etc., and taking things seriously. But yeah, it was good for Neil because it was very different for him.
Yeah.
Well, for as an actor from what he's used to doing, even though that a lot of the roles within that are quite comical roles, but there's some very serious parts within.
Like when it gets to the end scene, like that big climactic argument.
Yeah.
I'm sure you noticed that everyone was just like, holy crap, that.
Yeah. It felt so real, didn't it? That they were actually involved with what was going on within that scene. Yeah, it's very, very emotional play.
Yeah. I was crying when I saw it.
Yeah, good play, good play.
So, so over the years, do you have any audition horror stories? It's like, or on-set problems.
Audition horror stories. I don't think I've had any horrors. I think I've been really quite lucky. No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Probably after when I've gone, I thought, oh, I should have said that. I should have said this, but I can't think of any nasties that I've experienced. To be honest with you, I've been lucky. I think
that's fair enough. So, what would you consider is the hardest part of TV acting?
The hardest part, I think a lot of it is the amount of waiting around that you do before you actually used, or in between. It's keeping in that moment for your character, especially if you've got something meaty to do, between camera setups, etc. Because obviously there can be quite a lot of time from moving from a one shot to a two shot, or so there can be quite a lot of time between that. But I think everything is big on stage, isn't it? Yeah. On screen, everything is minimal. I always think less is more. That's what I've often been told. Less is more. But everything's really it's just very natural on screen for screen acting.
It's why I've never been good on screen. Some screen tests and auditions I've been for. So you're moving around too much. You're using. I'm used to playing to the back row.
Exactly. Well, that's it. You see, it's a totally different style of acting. It's a different technique. It's a different skill. Completely. That's why it's really good for anybody who's not ever done any screen acting is to record yourself. Delivering a monologue, or just reading in with somebody else and filming yourselves together.
Doing a podcast.
Yeah, you could do it like this here now. You could, you could read a two-hander scene on a Zoom. That's what a lot of people have been doing, haven't they? With the situation that we're in at the moment, everybody's been highly creative.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at what was it? The Big Night In the other week.
Big Night In, yeah.
Need, and that with Catherine Tate and David Tennant were just phenomenal.
Oh, the Lauren scene.
Yeah, it was absolutely. But yeah, it's just a matter of practicing and watching yourself back and back and back, and seeing what little habits you might have or anything like that.
I've been noticing. I tend to do this quite a lot. And I've been watching some of the podcasts back while editing, and just see me go.
Yeah. Well, you've seen yourself doing that now. So now when you're interviewing, you're more aware of it now. You see,
so it's like,
yeah, and it's hard, isn't it?
Oh yeah. So with all these TV roles and stuff, how has it changed you as an actress? I know you've touched upon, like we've literally just talked about, all the noticing the habits.
Yeah.
How do you think you've matured as an actress through TV acting?
Well, I think you're always growing, and I think you're always learning. Yeah. I have favourite actors that I watch a lot, and I know that when I've gone to, if you listen to people like Michael Caine or anybody like that who's delivered tons and tons of screen acting classes that you can still view now on YouTube and what have you, a lot of those actors will say to you, I've lost my train of thought now. They'll say to you, if you see something that somebody else does that you like, pinch it, because there's no doubt they've pinched it from somebody else. So if there's sort of a style, a unique style they have, or something that they do that you think, oh God, I liked how they delivered that, then you do it when you get the opportunity to deliver it in your performance. Because as I say, they've pinched it from somebody else. But I think you're always growing, and I think I personally, I'm always trying to work on my craft because I don't know everything, and I think that it's vitally important to keep working on your craft, keep growing, keep learning. I don't know if that answered your question really.
Yeah, that's all. It's good. I just have one last question for you.
Okay.
So we've touched upon little bits of advice already, but do you have any advice for people wanting to get into TV acting?
Into TV acting?
Yeah.
I would say get a good show reel together. I know there's lots of different companies around. We have some fantastic ones locally. I know that James Varley has just set up Only Projects. He's offering showreel and screen acting lessons as well. I would just say get to as many classes as you possibly can. Learn as much as you possibly can from these guys. Get a really good showreel together, and then take it from there. It depends whether you've got an agent or not. But anybody who's wanting to get into screen acting, just find a really good local place near you. I know there's local to us as well. There's Act for TV in Leeds. There's Act Up North as well in Leeds. And the tutors there are all experienced actors who've been in a number of things TV wise. So you're learning from experienced people as well. But I would just say get to classes if you want to get into screen acting, definitely. And there's plenty around.
That's good advice. So, Nikki, thank you for joining me today.
You're very welcome, my love. Thank you for asking me.
It's all right. So, that's been another episode of Interval Conversations. Tune in next time.